At the far eastern tip of Long Island, New York, stands an abandoned radar tower, rusted, silent, and officially forgotten. But for decades, people have claimed this place hid experiments so extreme they bent human consciousness, altered time, and erased memories. This is not science fiction. This is the Montauk Project. Montauk Point is quiet today, wind, ocean, and empty roads. But during the Cold War, it was one of the most heavily guarded military zones on the American East Coast. The structure dominating the landscape was Camp Hero, a U.S. Air Force radar station built during World War II and expanded during the 1950s. Officially, its mission was simple: detect Soviet bombers before they reached New York City. Unofficially, something else was happening. Something buried beneath concrete, steel, and secrecy. By the late 1940s and early 1950s, the United States was consumed by one fear above all others: losing technological superiority. Nuclear weapons had changed warfare forever. Now, military planners wanted the next advantage, whatever it took. During this period, the U.S. government authorized dozens of classified research programs: psychological warfare, mind control, behavioral modification, electromagnetic influence. Many were real, some were later admitted, others remain officially denied. Montauk would become linked to the darkest of them all: the shadow of Project MKUltra. Before Montauk had a name, there was Project MKUltra. In the 1950s, the CIA secretly conducted experiments on human subjects using LSD, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, electroshock, psychological conditioning. Most subjects never consented. Many never even knew they were part of an experiment. When MKUltra was exposed in the 1970s, the public learned a brutal truth. The U.S. government had already crossed ethical lines and erased the records. This matters because Montauk is believed to be a continuation. Why Montauk? Montauk was perfect, isolated, militarized, close to major cities. Underground facilities already existed. Powerful radar transmitters capable of high-frequency energy output. According to later whistleblowers, the radar tower at Camp Hero was not just scanning the sky, it was transmitting electromagnetic frequencies directly into human subjects. In the late 1980s, a man named Preston Nichols published a book that would spark a significant event. He claimed Montauk hosted secret experiments from the 1960s to the early 1980s. Children were abducted and used as test subjects. Human minds were enhanced, broken, or programmed. Memory wiping was routine. Time manipulation was attempted. Most shockingly, he claimed he worked there himself, but only remembered decades later. Nichols said his memories returned gradually through recurring dreams, electromagnetic sensitivity, hypnosis, recovered trauma. According to him, Montauk experiments targeted psychic ability, remote viewing, mind-to-mind communication, fear amplification, consciousness projection. The goal was not curiosity, the goal was control. The U.S. government response was simple: the Montauk Project never existed. Camp Hero was decommissioned. The site became a public park. Records were sealed or missing. But former military personnel, residents, and independent researchers noticed something disturbing. The underground sections of Camp Hero were cemented shut, not dismantled. Why seal something that never existed? By the early 1990s, Montauk had become more than a rumor. It was a symbol of Cold War paranoia, of unchecked authority, of experiments that may have gone too far. And the most disturbing question remained unanswered. If Montauk was fake, why did so many people remember the same horrors? The experiments no one was supposed to survive. If the Montauk Project was real, it was not a single experiment. It was a system. According to multiple whistleblowers, Montauk operated in phases, each one pushing further beyond ethical and scientific limits. The subjects were not volunteers. They were chosen because they were vulnerable. Children, runaways, orphans, those least likely to be missed. At the center of nearly every Montauk account is one object: the Montauk chair. Witnesses described it as a metal chair fitted with electromagnetic amplifiers, frequency modulators, neurological sensors. A person seated in the chair could allegedly enhance psychic ability, project thoughts, manifest images, influence physical systems. But the chair did not work for everyone. It required a specific type of mind. According to those who claimed to be involved, children were chosen because their minds were more adaptable. Their neurological pathways were still forming. They had fewer psychological defenses. This made them ideal test subjects for mind control, fear conditioning, memory suppression, psychic amplification. The cost was catastrophic. Many subjects reportedly suffered permanent trauma if they survived at all. Memory wiping and fractured identities. One of the most disturbing aspects of Montauk was not what happened during the experiments, but what happened afterward. Witnesses claimed memories were intentionally erased, false memories were implanted, identities were fragmented, subjects were released back into society. Some only remembered decades later, others never remembered at all. This mirrors confirmed Cold War research into dissociative states and behavioral programming, techniques openly studied by intelligence agencies at the time. One story appears again and again in Montauk testimonies. A teenage boy, identified only as having exceptional psychic ability, was placed in the chair repeatedly. Under amplification, his thoughts allegedly did not remain internal. They became real. Witnesses claimed imagined objects appeared, creatures manifested briefly, fear itself became physical. The experiment spiraled out of control. The Montauk Monster Incident. According to several accounts, one session ended in disaster. The boy, exhausted and terrified, imagined a creature from his subconscious, something massive, hostile, uncontrolled. Witnesses claimed the entity physically appeared within the underground facility, causing panic, structural damage, and an emergency shutdown. Whether literal or psychological, the result was the same. Montauk was terminated. The shutdown that left no records. Officially, Camp Hero was shut down for budget reasons. Unofficially, insiders claim the equipment was destroyed, tunnels were sealed, records were eliminated, personnel were reassigned under non-disclosure. The radar tower remained standing, but the underground complex, the heart of the project, was buried, not dismantled, buried. Multiple witnesses, same story. What makes Montauk difficult to dismiss entirely is not one witness, but many. Different people, different backgrounds, different time periods. Yet they describe similar layouts, identical procedures, the same chair, the same experiments. Critics argue this is shared mythology. Supporters argue something else. Shared memories don't appear spontaneously. Belief versus evidence. There is no official document confirming Montauk, but there is also no complete denial of human experimentation programs, psychological warfare research, classified Cold War projects. History has shown, repeatedly, that programs dismissed as conspiracies were later confirmed. MKUltra was one of them. The question deepens. By the time Montauk was allegedly shut down, something irreversible had happened, not just to the subjects, but to the idea of limits. If even part of these claims is true, Montauk was not a failure. It was a warning. And a final question remained. If Montauk ended, where did the research go next? After Montauk, where did the research go? If the Montauk Project truly ended, it did not end cleanly. Programs of that scale do not simply disappear, they migrate. Personnel are reassigned, budgets are renamed, facilities change locations. According to former insiders, Montauk was not shut down, it was absorbed. The research, whatever its true nature, was folded into other classified initiatives already operating beyond public oversight. Connections to confirmed programs. Unlike Montauk, some Cold War programs are no longer speculation. Documents released decades later confirmed MKUltra mind control experiments, sensory deprivation research, psychological fragmentation studies, human behavioral conditioning. What Montauk supporters argue is simple. If governments admitted to that, why is this impossible? The technology existed, the motivation existed, the secrecy certainly existed. From psychic warfare to technological control. By the late 1970s, warfare began shifting. Psychic research became less attractive, not because it failed, but because technology could achieve similar results with fewer unknowns. Influence no longer required chairs, frequencies, experimental subjects. It could be done through signals, surveillance, media, behavioral data. Control became quieter, more precise, less visible. The time distortion question. One of the most controversial Montauk claims involves time manipulation. Supporters argue radar frequencies were tuned beyond detection. Electromagnetic fields alter the perception of time. Consciousness, not bodies, was displaced. Critics respond with physics. No energy source, no verified mechanism, no reproducible evidence. And yet, time distortion under extreme electromagnetic exposure is still studied today. Not travel, but perception. The sealed tunnels of Camp Hero. Visitors to Camp Hero today see a park, but those who worked nearby noticed something odd. Sealed concrete entrances, restricted underground areas, ventilation shafts with no visible purpose. The radar tower remains locked. No public access, no detailed blueprints, only silence. Why witnesses spoke out late. Many alleged Montauk survivors remained silent for decades. Why? Fear, disbelief, fragmented memory. Some only spoke after therapy, hypnosis, neurological triggers. Skeptics say false memories. Supporters point out something else. Their accounts evolved independently, yet matched. Conspiracy or uncomfortable possibility? Montauk sits in a dangerous category, not provably real, not easily dismissible. It exists where confirmed history ends, classified research begins.
And that gray zone makes people uncomfortable. Because if Montauk was real, even partially, it means ethical limits were crossed. Civilians were used. Truth was buried deliberately. Why the story was never officially debunked. Governments rarely deny classified myths in detail. Denial confirms interest. Silence allows decay. Montauk faded not because it was disproven, but because it became old. Forgotten stories are often the safest ones. What Montauk really represents. Whether Montauk was a literal experiment, a psychological operation, a symbolic exaggeration, it represents something real. The willingness to test human limits in the name of power. That willingness has existed in every era. Final thought. Montauk may never be proven, but history has shown us this. The truth often surfaces decades late, after documents burn, after witnesses die, after questions stop being dangerous. Until then, Montauk remains a mirror, not of what happened, but of what we are capable of allowing. The Montauk Project is not just a story, it is a warning. Because the most disturbing experiments are not the ones we imagine, they are the ones we later admit.